I tried to warn you guys, but you didn't listen, and that's why Malaysia's getting an online safety Avengers. Malaysia's Madani government just passed an online safety bill, and how it got passed is a sad, sad tale. It has good intentions, but then it is said the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Look, I'm not saying that the law itself is problematic, which it is in a few ways, by the way. It is an act to enhance and promote online safety in Malaysia by regulating harmful content and providing for duties and obligations of application service providers, content application service providers, and network service providers, and to provide for related matters. There's a whole bunch of fun stuff like creating an online safety Avengers, tells you about the power of these Avengers, what social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok have to be in touch with, amongst a whole list of other things. But this is not just any normal committee. The committee has a ton of powers, like being able to determine what harmful content is, to force compliance. They can investigate, fine you ringgit if you don't do what they're saying. The claim is that this will only affect application services, but the question on people's minds is, will this affect my freedom of speech? But it turns out we may never know, because the majority of the MPs who are supposed to be in parliament on the day that this was discussed were not actually there. 77 MPs voted for the bill, 55 MPs voted against, and 90 people weren't even in the room. It will succeed if the bill goes for Senate confirmation and later for the royal assent with no challenge at all. I mean, there was only one day for the MPs to read the bill and then to vote on it, which gives the impression that the Malaysian government was trying to force it through. Naturally, all the CSOs, right, like they came out and they started complaining left, right, front and center about how this bill has problems, it grants powers that are too strong, lack of an independent oversight body, overreach of the Online Safety Appeal Tribunal, and that there's a very broad and vague list of different types of harmful content, which by the way, the Online Safety Committee can determine purely by its own prerogative. I mean, in defense of the Madani government, there's this quote by the late Isaiah Berlin that's been quoted by Anwar Ibrahim and also by the Nobel laureate Joseph Stiglitz. Freedom for the wolves has often meant death to the sheep. Now, there's no question that social media is a place where there is a ton of wolves. There are lots of people posting racist comments, hatred. Some people are cyberbullying TikTokers that they meet online, and there are other people who are literally on a daily basis trying to manipulate you, an internet brigade, so that people's opinions will change and elections can be manipulated all across the globe. And as a matter of fact, we all need online safety. Elderly citizens who barely know how to use the internet, let alone navigate a sophisticated scam operation with fake links and everything like that. People getting scammed left, right, front and center. And you have children using the internet every single day, getting targeted by people who want to traffic them, abuse them, and everything else. If the Madani government actually gets to stop this, then I will be very happy. Like, for me and for the cyberbullied child, like, it will be really great, I think, to have the confidence that if they report to the police or if they report to the authorities, then the authorities can immediately go straight over to the house of the troll, the grifter, and make sure that those people will get punished, dragged out, and live stream on national television so that they don't dare to commit crimes ever again. In fact, I would also welcome it if the Online Safety Committee would take action against all the fake accounts and all the people who are trying to internet brigade and manipulate people into supporting their preferred party. But here's where I want to talk about the sad part. Like, whether Madani realized it or not, it should have been more careful when it came to dealing with this, because freedom of speech is a really important thing to people. Like, most of us, we grew up in that anonymous internet generation where you could basically say anything that you want without being censored. The internet is a place where you should be free to speak your mind and share your thoughts. But this bill makes it so that even maybe legit criticisms of the government can be suppressed and silenced if, let's say, the government decides that it's harmful content. You could say that maybe the Online Safety Appeal Tribunal is going to go against that, or you could say that it's more related to the CMA, which by the way, they also amended, and with much greater penalties. But still, there is going to be a question and perceptions about the forthrightness of the Madani government in bringing forth a new world under this law. Now, the Madani government might say that that's not what this law is for, but The problem is, Madani, the spirit of the law doesn't matter if your government loses and another government comes in and then decides to make use of this to silence their political opponents. So you can imagine, right, that if, for example, the DAP or the PKR are not happy, then can they use the Online Safety Committee to go to their political opponents and then start prosecuting them? Even worse, what if later on, PAS or PN are elected into the government and then their ministers are basically from the other side? Then can those people use the powers of the Online Safety Committee in order to prosecute people on the other side of the spectrum? Think about it. And I think it's such a shame because there were tons of good intentions when it came to actually creating this legislation. The Madani government definitely wanted to create a situation where people will have an actually safe environment. But the thing is that natural human suspicion, fear of overreach, and all those things, right, are very normal and natural things that Madani should have really looked at before they even started this right here. Maybe they did it strategically because they don't want PAS PN to stop them from doing it, but I don't think that this is how democracy should have gone. Fighting against freedom of speech and securing huge powers for itself. It's weird because it talks so much about how it wants to become compassionate and inclusive, but this kind of thing is something that we don't really see with this legislative effort. It's all well and good to say that NGOs will never be happy with the amount of engagement that you do, but then if you say that you're going to conduct an engagement session with USM, and nobody on the internet, whether on Reddit, Laoya, or anywhere else, knows about what you have actually been doing to understand this issue, then it's reasonable to say that your engagement attempts were not very wide, very well known, or representative of the population as a whole. In other words, it's very hard to believe that the Madani government actually did try to engage people. The way that all of this happened shows that Madani wasn't even listening to the speakers that they brought in for the ILCOH, which, by the way, was the second part of the legislative process for the Online Safety Bill, an incredibly well-organized event and sadly completely ignored by lawmakers. The Canada case, they did a ton of online consultations for years, in fact, talking to people about online safety, having a national conversation about it, and actually educating people about what they were going to do. But this type of conversation, it doesn't happen in Malaysia. People say that they want to have these kinds of conversations, but it never actually happens and it just turns out to be lip service. Which is a shame because I think that the Madani government would have been so much more respected. But instead, what it has here is the idea that it's caused a democratic crisis, is going against its election promises to avoid draconian activity even as it preaches child safety, and left a bad taste in the mouths of all citizens of Malaysia. Well, anyway, I look forward to seeing what the Online Safety Avengers will do. If it's actually good for Malaysia, then I think that will be great right there. But we will see. What do you think of Malaysia's Online Safety Bill? Let me know in the comments.